What is going on, Knicks Nation? Welcome back to Knicks Media. My name is Richie, and today we got a special guest, a weekly guest on Knicks Media. You guys know him. It's Tyler, Wardy NYM. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. We got a lot to talk about in today's show because the New York Knicks are taking on the Orlando Magic tonight, the last game before the All-Star break. Oh, the timing of the All-Star break couldn't come at a better time because the Knicks need to get healthy. And we also have some news across the NBA and the New York Knicks that they are filing a protest against the league because they got bamboozled. They got robbed against the Houston Rockets. I'm
It's
still
true.
salty about it. And
Yep.
there's a chance, Tyler, that the Knicks might play the Rockets again in a 5-minute overtime to decide the winner of that one. Not official, but it is trending in that direction. So I do want to start off with that. What's your thoughts of that Rockets Knicks game and the Knicks filing a protest against the NBA? Because that was ridiculous to see what happened in that one.
Well, the thoughts about the game in a nutshell was like you could tell that this Knicks team is definitely down a couple guys, especially when you're down two of your three best players currently on your team, right? Shout out everyone for chiming. Appreciate you guys. And then for the Knicks to have the back and forth, the rally that they did, and to fall short in that manner, I mean, it was ridiculous. So we were all beyond pissed off. Don't get me wrong, there's always bias with fans usually when we have questionable calls, but this one was a pretty universal call. I mean, even the league, I mean, we heard officials say afterwards that yes, this was the wrong call made. So the Knicks clearly have enough oomph, in my opinion. They have enough proof and evidence here to justify getting this 5-minute overtime. And I know that it might seem like a silly thing, especially if the Knicks still end up losing the game, but every game counts. And you cannot let one go, especially because of a blatant call as bad as this one. So that's what I have to say about that. I'm so happy that the Knicks are doing this. It's going to be nuts if it happens. So you're telling me that they might just have to fly down to Houston just for 5 minutes of NBA basketball? I mean, it's bizarre, but hey, this is what happens when you have officiating as inconsistent as not only the NBA, but we have the NFL, the NHL. There's one thing that all major sports have in common. It's dog shit officiating. So
Oh,
you got to give credit where credit's due on that front.
yeah, seriously. I mean, the crazy thing about that game, and I talked about it already twice on this channel, is that it really magnified the issue across the NBA. And in that game in particular, it wasn't just like that was the only bad call. The whole game was lopsided. And like I'm not someone that likes to harp on the refs and say, "Oh, we lost because of the refs. Oh, this and that." But like you look at the box score, the Rockets had like 20 more free throw attempts than the Knicks did. And the Knicks were in the paint all game long. There was no foul calls. It was a physical contest. And the refs just weren't calling anything for the Knicks. I mean, we had Dylan Brooks lower his shoulder against Jalen Brunson, didn't get the foul. They called a blocking instead of an offensive foul on Dylan Brooks, which was absolutely ridiculous. So it's just really frustrating, but it is interesting to see that the New York Knicks are filing this protest. And I saw Ben Stiller on X, obviously one of the biggest Knicks fans on X in terms of celebrity worlds. He said they should make this overtime at the Garden because it would get sold out. Can you imagine the
Oh my
Knicks
God, yeah.
selling out the Garden for a 5-minute overtime period?
Knicks fans would do everything that they could to make sure that we had the advantage. They would sell that thing out right away. Because think about it. I mean, what do you even charge? I'm sure they would find a way to still charge like roughly the same prices for the tickets, but still, it's an interesting thought, and I agree with Ben on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to have to be in Houston. It's going to be a tricky situation, though, because the Knicks don't play the Rockets again. So it would have been
Right.
easier if the Knicks were versing the Rockets again later in the year and they scheduled it around it. Maybe the day before on their off day, they play a 5-minute game and then they play the full game next day. I'll say this. If this actually goes through and the protest works and the Knicks play them in overtime, you better win. Okay, because that would be embarrassing if the Knicks file the protest all the way to play a 5-minute overtime period to lose. I'll say that much. But I think by then, hopefully, we'll be a little more healthy. And hopefully we'll have Randall back and OG and Hartenstein, right?
Right. Yeah, no, that's the hope because this team needs reinforcements fast. You would think that, oh, now that we have Alec Burks and now we have Bogdanovich, that, oh, okay, everything's fine. No, everything isn't fine because Dante DiVincenzo, as much as we love him, is being ran into the ground. Now it's fluctuating with his health. Isaiah Hartenstein is still not completely healthy either. Like, this team has so many bumps and bruises. Oh yeah, Jalen Brunson is never like completely healthy to begin with, and now he's of course not been his best health wise over the past stretch of games. So yeah, I mean, we need these guys back ASAP, but thankfully, as you mentioned, Array, we have this big break that's going to do wonders for this team. So it's like, not that we wish injuries, but if there's any time for you to have some of your top guys and key guys out for either day to day or potentially a week or two plus, now is the time for it to happen. So it could be much worse in Knicks land right now.
Absolutely. And I feel like we're all caught up in the regular season flow. We were on cloud nine with a 9-game winning streak, and we're like thinking we're going to be the second seed in the East. And we're very excited, as we should. But the reality of the situation is, folks, none of these games at this point matter until we get into the dance. And obviously, we want to get at the highest seed possible in the East. I don't want to undermine any regular season games, but the most important thing for these Knicks is to get healthy for the run in April, right? That's what I'm looking at. What does this Knicks team look like health wise when the month of April begins? Because that is going to be the final 2 weeks of the regular season, and then the NBA playoffs begin shortly after that. That is what I'm looking forward to the most. Who's healthy? Who's not healthy? Is everybody playing well together? How's the chemistry looking for these New York Knicks? So I know that we can really overanalyze, and to be honest with you, Tyler, like, I know that Rockets loss really stings, but it's not the end of the world. I'm not hitting a panic button because Knicks fans need to put in perspective. Yes, we were winning despite the injuries, but now the injury bug unfortunately has caught up to them, right? Jalen Brunson can't do everything. And now with Dante seemed to be out tonight with the hamstring, which, by the way, does not seem to be a severe hamstring injury, which is a big thing for
Thank the
him to
Lord for
hopefully
that
be
one.
back after the All-Star break. It's going to be interesting. And now we got a game tonight to talk about. Right, we got a game tonight to talk about. Samuel asks, "Are y'all looking forward to tonight's game?" Of course, always looking forward to some Knicks basketball. But tonight's game is going to be a big one. The Knicks are 0-2 against the Magic. They're a team below us in the standings, and without Dante potentially tonight, Ed asks, "Is Devo out?" I don't know. I'd have to assume he would be because he's dealing with a hamstring, and there's one game remaining before All-Star break. If I'm the Knicks, I just rest him because I don't want that to absolutely get tweaked even further. But the Knicks have a big matchup tonight. The Orlando Magic are a pesky team. And again, they have not won against them yet this year. So what are you looking at in tonight's matchup in Orlando with all the injuries?
You got to do everything you can to stop Paulo. I mean, that's the big one, right? I mean, as a Duke fan, a not biased, a not bandwagon Duke fan, I've been a fan of them since
Biased.
early fifth
He
grade.
is
Fifth
all
grade, I kid
bandwagon.
you not, they were randomly assigned to me. Every
Oh,
kid in the
we haven't
class
heard
got
the
assigned a
story.
March Madness team. Anyways, you need to try to shut that man down. I know it is easier said than done. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm looking forward to tonight's game, knowing that we have the break after this, obviously, so I want to savor it. But I do have a lot of concerns on how the Knicks match up in this game, if I'm being quite frank. You know, when you're looking at no Randall, no OG, possibly no Dante, with the way that he has been absolutely killing it for the most part in this starting role for the Knicks over the past, 5, 6, 7 games now. And then you still have guys banged up. Isaiah Hartenstein, how many minutes are you going to get? Precious, of course, has been balling out. What? He had almost 20 rebounds against the Rockets. Fantastic stuff there. So not much complaints on that front. But I just have concerns for this Knicks team because they've been healthier this year. And while they didn't have necessarily the depth that they have now Burks and Bogdanovich, you could still make the argument that the team then that they played previously was still a good enough one that they just kind of fell short. So now you're telling me that the Knicks, instead of having Randall and instead of having OG, you have Burks, you have Bogdanovich in here. You might not have Dante. Is that enough to get it done? Is a question, right? Because if Dante's out tonight, then you're going to put Burks likely in the starting. Then you're going to move McBride up. So what's the configuration going to look like there from the starting five to obviously the bench?
Yeah, I mean, I think, with all the injuries, say hypothetically Dante's ruled out, which I would say is unfortunately going to happen. I think the starting five, are they going to start Boyan or Burks? I think that's the two options that's going to slide into that starting five. You got Brunson, Josh Hart, and Dante has been holding it down with the Nova boys in that starting lineup with Precious and Jericho Sims, assuming Hartenstein's still out as well. something I have noticed since Alec Burks came, which is my fear of getting Burks. My one fear was Deuce got 5 minutes of action, and Burks was the backup point guard in the clutch behind Jalen Brunson, which listen, he had a clutch shot, but he was absolutely abysmal in that game in Alec Burks. Boyan was phenomenal in the game, and they're still
Right.
trying to figure themselves out. And I also think Knicks fans, including myself, have become spoiled from the perspective of every time we make a trade, we're good right away. Josh Hart, we trade from last year. We go
Yeah.
on an 8-game winning streak. We trade for OG. We're on a 9-game winning streak. So that's rare that a team is able to go on a win streak immediately after a trade. Usually it takes you a little time to kind of gel. And I
Usually
think
there's a
that's what the Knicks are
transition
doing.
period.
Exactly. And that's what we're in right now,
Right.
especially with all the injuries here. Because remember, we traded for these players in Burks and Boyan to be part of a deep rotation, not really for them to be a big part of the rotation, right? They're supposed to be a part of it, not the head of it. And unfortunately, they're the head of it because of all the injuries. I think the Knicks definitely will have a chance to win any game this year, regardless of injuries, if Jalen Brunson's healthy, which he is. So anytime Brunson is on the court for the Knicks, I have confidence and I have we're about to think, yep, he could put up 30, 35, 40 points and win them the game. Now, will that happen? I'm not too sure. A lot has to go in their favor. If Dante's down, I think Boyan is going to be that piece that I'm looking at in terms of the score because you cannot appreciate, like, you can't ask more from Dante in terms from a scoring standpoint of his ability to step in for Randall and OG from a secondary scoring option. And I do got to give a shout out to Josh Hart because he stepped up, had probably his breakout game in terms of offense. Last game against the Rockets had 17 points, was actually hitting his shots. So shout out to Josh Hart. I
11
don't think your
rebounds.
shot's broken anymore,
Yeah, I
as he
don't
would
think his
say
shot's
himself.
broken either.
My shit
I love
broke.
how blunt they're blunt, how blunt they are too.
Did
And
you watch the first episode of the pod?
I not in its entirety. I've watched like I think 35, 40 minutes of it so far. It's great. But here's the thing.
They haven't
Speaking
won
of the
since it, by
pod,
the way. Just saying.
this is a perfect transition because I want to bring this up. The Roommates show, the new show, of course, with Jalen Brunson and
They
Josh
haven't
Hart.
won since it launched.
At what point do we say that they can't do the show anymore? They're
Yeah,
0
I
and
mean, we
3.
haven't won yet.
Is it 0 and 4? Is it 0 and 5? Is it 0 and
Uh,
10? Like at where do we draw a line in the
well, luckily
sand
we
where
have the
we
All-Star
say,
break.
what's that?
If they lose tonight, they're 0-4 since it started. Now I will say a lot of the episode coming out tomorrow was pre-recorded like weeks ago, so it's not like they're doing
I
it like
don't give a
now.
shit. It's still new to me.
Oh, I know. I mean, knowing Knicks fans like, oh, now they start a podcast and we're on a 9-game winning streak. They launch it and now we've lost 4 in a row. I mean, definitely we're going to be talking about that.
Right.
It's frustrating. It definitely is frustrating, but luckily we have the All-Star break to kind of maybe level it all out. Am I right? So, folks, if you're just tuning into the show for the first time, do us a solid favor, simply hitting that like button. We're live here on Knicks Media at 12:22 EST on Wednesday, right before the Knicks take on the Orlando Magic tonight for the final game before the All-Star break. Now, I also want to have a little All-Star break preview before we go deeper into tonight's matchup against the Magic because we have some Knicks representing in the All-Star game, in All-Star weekend. Let's not forget Jacob Toppin is representing the New York Knicks in the dunk contest, which I find hilarious.
Just like his brother, who
Yeah, I mean,
unfortunately
didn't see
couldn't do
that
it
one
the
coming.
other night.
Did not see that one coming. Jacob Toppin representing, and then Jalen Brunson is also going to be in a 3-point contest. And then
That's
Julius
gonna be fun.
Randle, I don't know if he's going to travel because of his injury. I would like to see him there just because he's an all-star. But the Knicks have 2 all-stars, which will be fun. So what are you looking forward to in this all-star break from the all-star games perspective, celebrity game? Is there anything that you really care about or it's something that you don't really look forward to that much?
I honestly, I think I like the skills competition the most for NBA. I don't care for the game itself whatsoever because no one's playing defense. I don't care about the celebrity game all that much because a lot of these celebrities are people that I don't care for or know, if I'm being quite frank. It depends on who it is. But I love the 3-point contest. I always have. So to see JB a part of this is exciting. Gonna be able to showcase himself and not not to try to overstep at all. But this feels like the time where, man, oh man, if Brunson can somehow win this thing, this is what helps put him on the map. I'm thinking like marketing. I'm thinking like the world needs to know how good Jalen Brunson is because he's still criminally slept on by the rest of the league in a large part. That's what I want to see. So I really hope JB can continue to showcase that amazing three ability. I know that he struggled with it, significantly as of late that we've seen at times. So I'm hoping that once we get into the All-Star break and we get to the 3-point contest that he's putting on a show for us to be happy about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Brunson being the 3-point contest is going to be a lot of fun. I see a lot of Knicks fans are saying Dante DiVincenzo should be in the 3-point contest, and I agree. He should
I
be.
agree.
Um,
I 100% agree.
but
Big Ragu should be everywhere.
come on now. But a lot of it has to do with Brunson's already going to be there, so it just works out that way. And I mean, Jalen Brunson's the star, and I'd love to see him represent the Knicks in that 3-point contest. I mean, when was the last time a Knick was in that 3-point contest? I mean, I'm trying to think back. Let me know in the chat, guys. Who was the last Knick to be in the 3-point contest? I'm really drawing a blank here, and I feel like there's somebody. Was Steve Novak ever in it? Was Tim Hardaway Jr.? I don't think he was ever in it, but let me know in the chat, guys. Anybody uh, who was the last Knick to be in the 3-point contest? We all know that the Knicks have been represented in the slam dunk contest for a long time,
Right.
going back to James White, Flight White. I mean, that was ridiculous back in the day. Obi Toppin, of course, Nate Robinson, and now Jacob Toppin, which is going to be fun. And then, listen, the All-Star game is definitely not the most entertaining thing, but it is going to be fun to see our guy, Jalen Brunson, out there representing our New York Knicks. Now, getting into tonight's matchup a little more deeper, we got Bro saying an interesting take about tonight's matchup. The Magic played a tough game last night. Tonight will be two tired teams. The teams that want it more will win. I have to think we do not want to go into the break on a 4-game losing streak. I think we get up for this game more than the Magic. Yeah, so Orlando played a tough game last night, I believe, against OKC at home, the Orlando Magic. So they're coming off a back-to-back. They lost by double figures to the OKC Thunder. And I think that's going to be a big, big matchup for these New York Knicks to go up against a team that is below them on the standings, but a team that's also beat up on the New York Knicks twice this year. So definitely interested to see what happens in tonight's matchup. Now, I do want to show you guys the lines presented by BetUS. The Knicks are 3.5-point underdogs in tonight's matchup. They're at plus 140 to win the game outright, and the over-under is set at 211, which is pretty low because both teams are a little defensive minded here. So if you guys want to get a 125% sign up bonus, you guys know that BetUS is the official sportsbook sponsor of Knicks Media. That link right now is pinned at the top of the chat. But if you're watching on replay, you can click it down below in the description. You can get a 125% sign up bonus up to $2,500, fast 24-hour payouts, and a 24/7 customer service feature. That's my personal favorite. You guys can literally call them up after your account's open, say, hey, give me the Knicks money line, put 50 on it or whatever much money you want to put on it. Definitely big time shout out to BetUS Sportsbook, the official sportsbook sponsor of Knicks Media, not only today, but for the rest of the season through the NBA playoffs. So Tyler, based off these odds, is there anything that you're leaning towards?
Ooh, good question. They just changed too. They just went from plus 30 for the Knicks to plus 140. And obviously, what's going to play a big factor here is Dante DiVincenzo's availability. So if you want to be, the Knicks homer, if you want to have your bias and you think that, okay, tonight's a night that we're going to finally slay these Orlando Magic, even while we're all beat up heading into the All-Star break, then I say hammer that money line at plus 140. Also suggests too as well when it comes to the spread. You see plus 3.5 here at minus 110. Got minus 3.5 for the Magic too. I mean, personally as well, if you're a Knicks fan, take your pick. I would probably go with the spread more than the money line, even though the plus 140 odds are nice. Plus 3.5. I like the cushion there a little bit more, but yeah, obviously the odds between the two, the money line is the flashiest.
Yeah.
Your best chance to get the best bang for your buck, if you will.
I think the under is going to hit in this game personally. Two defensive teams that are kind of running out of gas. The Magic coming off a back-to-back. The Knicks are banged up. Give me the under at 211. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game between both teams.
I like that.
And, of course, the Knicks at plus 3.5. It's hard to not like that because if the Knicks do lose tonight, I think it's going to be a tight matchup. I don't see the Knicks, you saw it against the Rockets. They were down 12, but they fought all the way back and tied it up. They were down 9 in the fourth quarter. They fought all the way back and tied it up. So if the Knicks do lose this year, I'm noticing it's not by significant points. So giving the Knicks plus 3.5 and the under. That's what I'll be doing on BetUS Sportsbook, guys. Don't forget to click that link. Open up your account for a 125% sign-up bonus on BetUS. Please bet responsibly. We appreciate that. And now the people in the chat are reminding me Randle was in the 3-point contest. How did I forget that?
How did
Randle
I
was in the
forget that? Wasn't that just last year or
No,
2 years ago?
I don't think it was last year, but he was in it and he absolutely crumbled. I remember watching it with my
Oh,
friends. I'm like,
it
come
was two.
on, Julius.
It was 2 years ago then, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. It I don't know. I feel like the Knicks putting Julius Randle out there, that was his career season. He was shooting like 41% from the 3-point line heading into the All-Star break. But then he went out there and just bricked everything.
Yeah. I mean, that was the Julius where we were having some of our frustrations with, for sure. Not the Julius today.
Well, no, that Julius, that was the breakout Julius. But
I'm sorry. This was year one, Jew?
I think that was the year where he not year one. Year one, he didn't look that good. And then year 2 is when he broke out and won most improved player of the year and was all NBA. And then they
Right. That was
extended him.
2020 heading into
That was the
2021.
4th seed when we went to the playoffs. And
then
then
we
the year
lost
after that, and the year after that, we missed the playoffs. And then the year after that was this past season. And then now we're in this year. So Julius Randle, very interesting Knick career, if I had to say. Very polarizing, very up, very down. And I got to give Julius Randle a lot of credit just from a mentality standpoint that he's been able to like sustain the New York Knicks fandom because we are insane. And I'm speaking on behalf of myself as well, because I am insane as a Knicks fan, just like all of us. So definitely missing Julius Randle right now, and OG, and Mitch, and Hartenstein. So I do want to ask you, Tyler, what is the ceiling? Like, where are the Knicks going if and when we are finally fully healthy, which obviously we feel like is the only thing holding this Knicks team back right now? Hypothetically speaking, perfect world, in April, even Mitchell Robinson's back, Julius is back, everyone's healthy. What's the ceiling with this team?
I mean, ceiling, wishful thinking is getting all the way to the dance. But I would say ceiling with this team fully healthy right now, yeah, I think we could find ourselves in that conference final discussion again for sure. Like, they definitely have the pieces, in my opinion. The depth is there. It really is going to come down to that health, right? Like, if Randall, OG, everyone returns, how long of a transition period do the Knicks have from that point on? One, with those guys returning from injury, maybe having a little rust. And two, once that rust is off, it's all full steam ahead then. You know, like I don't think I've ever seen a Knicks team with this much depth. Have you? Like,
No.
if you had a Knicks team that you've watched in your lifetime as a fan, not a Knicks team that you were alive for and didn't watch. I'm talking about like when you were growing up, right? Have you ever seen a Knicks team with this much quality of depth on the active roster?
No, I mean, you see it right here, folks. I mean, listen, this is the deepest this Knicks team has
The
been.
Mitchell Zong, dude.
Now, of course, this isn't like the starting 5 at the top. This is just like the 2 new additions with the 3, starters with Brunson, OG, and Randall. And then we got, this is just a graphic of all the Knicks players that are going to be part of the rotation. I mean, just look at the depth, bro. You talk about the front court of Robinson, Hartenstein, and Precious. Okay. And then Hart, Deuce, and Dante with the 2 new additions of Boyan and Burks mixed in with the 2 all-stars of Brunson and Randall. And then the big prize that we got in the trade of OG Anunoby. Bro, like this is ridiculous. Am I looking at the 2024 NBA champions or am I getting ahead of myself? Yes, I'm completely getting ahead of myself. Of course I am. I'm trying to ground my expectations as much as I can. But when you look at this, get healthy. Please.
I'm looking at this team right now, and I just see a lot of not only excitement, but I also see a lot of selflessness. And I feel like I've said that every single show I've done with you so far this season, and it just holds true here. And that selflessness is what's going to carry this team. Obviously, making sure that selflessness means Alec Burks not chucking up freaking 40 shots just because, that's Alec Burks for you. We got to make sure that dies down a little bit. But aside from that, you got so many weapons here and diverse weapons. Like the Knicks went on their tremendous run with OG, with Isaiah Hartenstein, not with Mitchell Robinson. Like I can only imagine what that dynamic is going to be like once you have Mitch back, right? If you do get him before playoffs. Like I'm telling this Knicks team has a wet, and Precious Achua went from literally being a throw-in to Raptors fans and us saying this guy's a bum after literally
It's the
one
Precious
game.
trade. It's become the Precious Achua trade.
It has become the Precious Achua trade in a lot of ways. He's played so well. I mean, seriously, like, yes, he hasn't been perfect by any stretch. Yes, he's been caught in transition plenty, but still, like, there have been things to like there from both of them. So, yeah, I think that really just leads me to my conclusion of this overwhelming sense of optimism I have with this team, as long as they're able to get all healthy and hopefully get enough, get enough practice and time with each other, getting in unison. Again, this is a decent amount of new guys on the block, over a fairly short period of time, right? Between Precious, OG, now you got Burks back, who of course understands is familiar, but it's still a new guy here. Bogdanovich. I mean, those are 4 key pieces to your roster that weren't here, just 2 months ago. So you want to make sure that you have a nice thing in unison. Everything's gelling here with them, because that's really the biggest hiccup I could see with this team heading into playoffs. I know that this is a Knicks Magic preview show, but we're always kind of talking about what it's going to be like once these guys return post All-Star break and things like that. But what I'm going to look for most when they're healthy is how long is that transition period going to be? Bogdanovich, again, is still getting acclimated, obviously. Burks getting acclimated. OG, once he returns, is he going to be balling out just like he did from the start? Or is he going to have a time frame where it's like, okay, he's a little underwhelming because he's still getting himself grounded coming back from
Especially with a
his
right
surgery?
elbow injury. Like, what's the shooting going to look like with OG?
Exactly. Yeah, like there's question marks. So while it's fun to label and say, hey, this Knicks team is just health away from being like the best in the league or one of the best, while that may be true, we need to realize that just because they may get healthy doesn't mean it's necessarily going to work. So that is, I guess, the biggest concern I have heading into playoffs down the road once we get there, is just making sure that there's things in unison. I think the only thing that could really hold this team back is if they're not on the right page, if there's guys that just aren't going the way you thought they would, which again, I find very hard to believe with how selfless and how easy it's been to buy into this Tibbs mentality, as long as you're not Evan Fournier.
Evan Fournier. Also, I had no problem with what Fournier had to say. And I
Not at
love how
all.
the media had to like, oh, look what Fournier said about the Knicks. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
obviously he said that. Guy's been rotting on the bench for 3 years. Of course he's happy to be out of New York. But that's typical media. There is one player that I feel like has been forgotten amongst Knicks fans for obvious reasons, because the guy has been injured for a long time, and that's Mitchell Robinson. Like, I'm here to tell you guys that if Mitchell Robinson returns, like, I love Isaiah Hartenstein. He's done a phenomenal job. He brings a completely different dynamic to the New York Knicks rotation. But let's not forget who Mitchell Robinson is. I'm so sick of people saying, oh, Mitch, get rid of him. Like, I get it. He's injury prone. But when he's on the court, let's not forget he was one of the biggest reasons why we beat the Cavaliers in 5 last year in the playoffs. And this season, before he got hurt, the guy was having a career year, leading the NBA in second chance rebounds, in offensive rebounds by a large, large margin. And the man is an absolute defensive menace. Okay, so like if we can get Mitch back and have 48 minutes of Mitchell Robinson or Isaiah Hartenstein on the court at all times, bro, like that's ridiculous. I know people are gonna be like, yeah, well, should Mitch come off the bench? Should Hartenstein keep starting? I don't care who starts. I'm somebody that's realized doesn't matter who starts the game. It's a matter about who finishes the game. And I feel like people are forgetting about the monster of what Mitchell Robinson is, and nothing to take away from Isaiah Hartenstein, because Isaiah Hartenstein brings, like I said, a new dimension to the Knicks offense. He can be a better playmaker. He can find people back door. He actually has an offensive game a little bit where Mitch doesn't. But what Mitch brings is an absolute presence down low. And you saw, for example, against the Indiana Pacers, in that Pacers game, without Hartenstein and without Mitchell Robinson, of course, we lost that game.
Yep.
And we didn't have Jericho Sims as well. We lost that game because we had no player down low. Taj Gibson, I love you, buddy, but retire. It's time to be a coach. Okay. Absolutely love you, Taj, but
Oh,
like
come on.
retire because, dude,
They
nothing
just
but
suck.
disrespect. Nothing
Who
but disrespect. No,
We don't
no
have any
disrespect
other
to the guy,
options,
Taj.
bro. He's literally
No, I
just
know
doing us
that,
a
but like
favor. Like,
we lost that game because we had nobody down low. Because how have the Knicks been winning all season? It's been
I
offensive rebounds and it's been defending the paint. We had neither of those in that game. And my point is, without
agreed.
Mitch, Isaiah Hardenstein stepped
Poor
in, and now
Taj.
Hardenstein gone for these past few games, and Jericho Sims down in that Indiana game. My boy Taj, bro, he was gassed. He was. It's time to retire, Taj. I love you, but come on now. He's doing what he can, though. I got no disrespect to Taj. He's an OG. I love him.
I
The Knicks fans
I
love
mean,
him too.
he is an OG. I just saw a clip of Josh Hart looking at his feet. He's like, "We got Taj with the Timbs on over here." It's just killing me.
Dude,
I love them. I
I
love the
love him.
dynamic. And Taj is like kind of like smirking,
He's the
like
coach right now, suiting up.
like the uncle. Like how old is Taj? Is he what, 37?
I have no idea. Definitely around
35?
37. Let me check. But the way I look at Taj Gibson is he is a literal coach playing basketball right now. He's
Yeah.
38 years old. So
Dude, he could
but
coach him. He could be a Knicks coach for all we know in the next couple
that's what I'm
years.
saying. Like, first of all, I love Taj. Like, I don't want to make it seem like I'm disrespecting him, but like he's a liability out there, bro. Like the guy can't hit a hook shot from 3 feet away from the bucket, and he's trying to. I'm like, come on, Taj. Like, so many different things that's not going the Knicks' way. But listen, the good thing is we're not gonna have Taj Gibson hopefully playing minutes in comes April. It's the middle of the season and we have injuries. So we're plugging in Taj Gibson in the meantime. Doesn't mean anything. Which is another reason why don't panic about this 4-game losing streak, in my opinion. Like we have Taj Gibson playing significant minutes. Okay. We'll be fine. Someone asks any injury update on Dante. Nothing official, but I'm pretty sure from Bondi, we heard that it's not a severe hamstring injury, which is definitely the good news. If I had to guess he's not going to play tonight, but with the All-Star break coming up, I think that a minor hamstring injury won't be anything too severe because, as you know, Tyler, hamstring injuries can definitely linger on.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, hammy injuries. I've had my own hammy injuries too. When those bad boy ties up, oh, it is not fun whatsoever. So no, hopefully for Dante's sake, though, again, don't rush him, especially with this being the last game before the break. Obviously, I want the Knicks to be having as many guys healthy for it as possible, but no need to rush Dante for the sake of a regular season game right now where we're at before heading into the All-Star break. So just if
Couldn't
he's
agree
good to
more.
go, great. If not, I know Tibbs is like, I'm gonna play you 50 minutes somehow if you play
And that's
tonight.
the sad thing is like the injuries are not helping the Tom Thibodeau system, like
No,
because
and
obviously he's
it's going to
known to
only
like
get worse the
yeah,
more we
he's
don't have
known to
these guys
overplay his
back.
players, but now he kind of has no choice because there's no one to play. And I still don't think it's an excuse because Deuce getting 5 minutes is a disgrace, in my opinion. The
Yeah, there's
guy
no
comes in for
reason to do
five
that.
minutes and is 2 for 2. I mean, what's going on? Give Deuce some minutes, Tibbs. Give Deuce minutes. But hopefully we get to see big money AB, Alec Burks have a big game
Big
tonight.
money AP.
Without
Yeah.
Burks, without Burks tonight, we're screwed. I feel like he's the X factor because
He's got to
Dante's
be.
going to be done. We know what Brunson's bringing. I don't know if I can rely on Josh Hart to have another offensive game like that. Boyan's going to be a bucket, but I think Alec Burks is the key tonight because he's one of those players, Tyler, that when he's hot, he's Michael Jordan. When he's cold, he's like, I don't know, the worst player the NBA's ever seen. So, like, which Alec Burks are we getting tonight? Hopefully, it's on the better side. So, folks, tonight, the last game of
We're getting 19 from Burks while shooting like 37 from the field.
no, we need a 25-point game from Burks, 23 points from Boyan, 35 from Brunson, 15, 10, and 8 from Josh Hart, and the Knicks cruise to victory to
I didn't
snap
hear
the
any
3 games.
Precious Achua discussion there. Are we
Precious
just
Achiuwa is getting 19 rebounds and blocking. Dude, Precious is a dog. Okay, I'm really
It's
happy about Precious Achiuwa. His story is fun too. The fact that he was a New Yorker, came from, and he came to the Bronx and was raised in the city of New York for basketball. It was only right for him to be a Knick. So Tyler, tonight, last game before the All-Star break. I appreciate you hopping on the channel here. As you guys know, Tyler is a weekly guest on Knicks Media. If you guys do not know, he is covering everything you need to know about the spring training. It is here, ladies and gentlemen. Baseball is here. Shout out to what Tyler's doing over there on his YouTube channel. If you're a Mets fan, please go check him out. Even if you're a Yankees fan, he has a podcast covering Yankees and the Mets as well, and overall MLB coverage. Definitely go check out my buddy Tyler at his YouTube channel. Always appreciate you coming on here to talk some Knicks, Tyler.
Thank you, brother. Really do appreciate it. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure indeed, guys. Tonight, last game. We will see you guys later. And we're out of here. So let's go, Knicks. I am predicting a 103-99 victory over the Orlando Magic to snap the 3-game skid, get back in the win column, head into the All-Star break with positive vibes, and just hoping that we can get healthy for the rest of the season. Guys, don't forget to hit that like button on your way out. This show was brought to you by and powered by BetUS Sportsbook. We appreciate them for being the proud sponsor of the channel. We'll catch you guys later, and let's go Knicks. Peace out, everybody.